Sugar Daddy Podcast, yo. Learn how to make them pockets grow. Financial freedom's where we go. Smart investments, money flow.
Welcome back to the Sugar Daddy Podcast. If you are a first-time listener, welcome to the show. We are so glad to have you. And if you were an OG, thanks for coming back week over week. This is the podcast that helps you build a clear financial plan so you can feel confident and in control of your money. And babe, before we get into it today, I just have to give a shout out for a review that we recently got. And it is absolutely incredible because every single episode we give you a call to action, because this is not just we don't want you just to consume our content. We want you to actually do. We want you to move your needle forward, whatever that is. And this person, the title was 1995 Millennial. We're going to give a shout out because this review is just too good to keep to ourselves. And it is by Bibbidi Bomb Bomb? Bitty Bomb Bomb. Woo, sorry, Bitty Bomb Bomb.
It's like
okay.
the Selena song.
Yes, I just got it. And that makes sense because, let me get into it and then it'll all come together. So this says, last year I turned 30 and had my 2 babies. Congratulations. My husband and I decided to get serious about getting our finances in order, so I started researching and stumbled upon the Sugar Daddy podcast in March. Since then, I've taken the following actions. Moved our emergency savings to an HYSA, adjusted my 457B and my husband's 401k to maximize our employer contributions, opened Roth IRAs for both of us, and automated our contributions to hit the yearly max, put all of our tax refund towards our principal car loan, hopefully paid off fully by next year, and we are now planning for our next goals, saving for a down payment on a house and getting our life and disability insurances in order. All this to say, I'm very grateful for the knowledge Jess and Brandon have provided me over the last month. This is 30 days, y'all. I mean, that is incredible. And especially appreciate the action items at the end of each episode. I'm feeling more confident and in control of my family's future with every step, and I'm hopeful about the financial legacy we will be able to hand off to our children. Yes, especially as a first-gen daughter of immigrants whose parents were too busy surviving to learn about or access these tools. Thank you both. Most people don't get this done in a year.
No.
Let alone 30 days. This is why we show up week after week.
Yeah, that's the main.
Oh my gosh.
That's the main goal of this podcast, is to provide you guys with information that is actionable, and you actually take the steps and do this stuff, and it improves your financial life and just your overall happiness with your life.
Absolutely. So listen, Bitty Bum Bum, amazing. Shout out to you. We are so proud of you, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you, and pat on the back for yourself for taking action. And if she can do it, anybody can do it. It's not that hard. I know it feels intimidating, but that's why we do the episodes the way we do them, to hopefully take away the intimidation and the jargon and all the things that make you feel stuck. And the first step is to take the first step.
Yes.
So we just wanted to shout that out because absolutely incredible, and we're so proud of you. But what are we talking about today, babe?
Today we are talking about the conversation between being loyal and staying at your job, or possibly job hopping in regards to what actually pays off in the long term.
And I think that's such a good topic because if you are a millennial, elder millennial, we understand the premise behind job hopping and what it can do for you financially, but it's also very scary out there right now. And I think what's changed is our parents' generation. It's like, stay in the job for 30 years, get the pension, keep your head down, and then retire. Well, we're not set up like that. Ain't nobody getting a pension. We're probably not even going to get Social Security. So, you have to go where you're challenged, where you feel valued, where you like your team. But at the end of the day, life is expensive. So you also have to go where the money is.
Yeah. I think it's also very hard because I think a lot of us, if we have a, pretty good relationship with our parents, we ask them for advice and stuff like that. And the advice that they would give on this topic is coming from a completely different time period.
Mm-hmm.
And things have changed dramatically. during their time period, you stay at a job 30, 40 years, get your pension, depending where you're at, maybe get your watch when you retire, and then you're good to go.
Yeah.
And there was definitely a lot of benefits of being loyal to one employer. And that has completely shifted in regards to how we have to navigate our careers now because that loyalty doesn't pay off the same way anymore, nowhere near it.
You're not getting a Rolex for staying 30 years anymore.
I mean, the thing is, too, is that, we've experienced it where, like, layoffs are abundant now.
Oh
So
my
you could be with
gosh.
a company for, 10 plus years, and next thing you know, layoff happens and you're gone.
Yep.
And that's the hard part about layoffs is because layoffs aren't necessarily based upon performance.
Yeah. And we just did an episode on that, right? Like, it doesn't matter how long you've been there. I mean, I've been laid off twice in the last 2 years. We've got friends who were super loyal to their companies, 15 plus years at their companies, high performers, climbing up the ranks, still got laid off. And so you have to start thinking like, your mind starts shifting from like, I'm going to be loyal and, that whole like, this, the work is my family. And no, they're not. They're
No.
not. You are a number. You will be
I mean, unless
replaced.
literally you're self-employed and it's a family business,
Yeah,
then it is your
but
family.
otherwise, no, they are not your family. So that needs to get out of your head. And we've seen it all too often, right? Like somebody gets really sick, somebody, heaven forbid, passes away, their desk is cleared out, and that requisition is opened within 24 hours. Like, you are replaceable. And I know that we all want to think that we're special and we got the secret sauce and what we bring to the table is like extra amazing. And for many of us, that is the case, but it doesn't matter. It's still not enough because at the end of the day, the business will make a business case. And if they feel like a reduction in workforce is the best financial option, it doesn't matter how well you've performed or how long you've performed that well. And so today we're going to go a little bit back and forth on like, do you stay? Do you go? But I mean, the data still shows overwhelmingly that, these piddly 1.5, maybe up to 5% raises that people are getting year over year, more of like a cost of living raise, are not in comparison to when you leave a company and you can negotiate sometimes a 10 to 20% increase in your base. And so if you're doing that every 3 to 5 years, that can have a substantial impact on the way you build wealth over time.
Yeah, one of the main parts of, financial planning is also maximizing your income.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're in your prime earning years, by like you said, making those changes every few years, and it's a strategic change. It's not just simply you're making lateral movements from one company to
Right, right.
another. It does have to be strategic in the sense of maybe a step up in regards to whatever your title may be.
Mm-hmm.
But in addition with that, not just simply the
Responsibilities,
title,
yeah.
also the pay that comes with that,
Mm-hmm.
because the numbers show, staying at a company year after year after year, those incremental increase that you get in your income is nowhere near keeping up if you were to change, companies every 3 to 5 years.
Right. Well, and think about it too. Let's say you switch jobs, let's say you get a 20% increase, which would be amazing, right? Now, the next year, when maybe you get a 4% increase, that's a 4% increase on 20% more than
Yes.
you were making. Again, that's
Compound
compounding
interest.
exactly on itself. So you have to think about not just the in the moment I'm signing my offer, but what is this going to look like year over year
Mhm.
long term?
And the thing is, too, is maybe not even necessarily about, job hopping, but also testing the market.
Mm,
All right.
yeah.
So,
You feel which is funny because you haven't tested the market in years because you work for yourself. So, do as he says, not as he does, people. But I understand what you're saying.
so the biggest thing is that, like, obviously in the environment we're in right now with so much uncertainty where people are afraid to do certain things, but the idea is that you don't necessarily have to leave your current company for another company.
Mm-hmm.
You can test the market. So if you are interviewing at other companies, and let's just say, for example, you were interviewing for jobs that are very similar to the one that you currently have,
Mm-hmm.
but say another job's going to pay you $30,000 more with similar benefits package and everything. So, we're comparing
Comparable.
apples to
Mm-hmm.
apples,
Mm-hmm.
but you're getting a significant increase. You could take that number back to your current employer and say, "Hey, I have this job offer over here,
Mm-hmm.
and that's this amount." Now, your new employer might not increase to that full new amount, but they might
You mean your
definitely.
old employer?
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
your old employer might not increase you, that additional
But
30,000.
losing you is going to cost more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And especially if you are someone who is good at your job, you already,
Mm-hmm.
you've been there for years, you know the environment, you know the product or whatever the job entails. It takes so much more money and time and effort to find somebody new, make sure that person's actually a good fit to begin with, and then
And get
ramp
them
them
up and
up and
running.
everything like that. It
Exactly.
costs so much more. There is
Yeah.
a significant cost of turnover and with employees. So testing the market to one, find out, am I underpaid? Because if
Mm-hmm.
you find out that you have like three other companies that are willing to pay you, $20,000 more, $30,000 more than what you're currently getting at your current employer,
Mm-hmm.
you're getting underpaid. You're underpaid. It's plain and simple.
Yeah.
And that gives you a little bit of leverage in order to maybe get a little bit more where you're at without having to move.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of things. So we had a friend who did this. She was with IBM for like 15 years, went to a more local company, interviewed. They, I think, offered her close to $40,000 more, and she ended up taking that offer back to IBM. And they were like, yeah, no problem. We got you. Right. Because they didn't want to see her and all of her tribal knowledge walk out the door because they knew, like you said, it would cost so much more time and money to replace her and get her ramped, or whoever they're going to replace her with ramped back up, than to just do the right thing, which is, all right, let me give you fair market value for your skills and for your loyalty.
I would also say that like the a company has so many other things on their plate that they're worried about
Mm-hmm.
that maybe they're not going to be the one that's proactively checking to make sure that everyone is paid to
Yeah.
current market value. You
Yeah.
do have to be an advocate for yourself.
Yeah. Especially, so I will say, public companies do this better than private companies. So there, there was a company. It was private. Now it is actually public. And there was like a huge scandal. Somebody emailed something that they shouldn't have. All the salaries got basically leaked. And this was like kind of back in the day, but that thing went viral. Like somebody printed that email, went to the copy machine, and everybody got a copy. Like that's kind of what happened. So anyway, people very quickly realized there was a huge discrepancy. And what ended up happening is there was huge discrepancies between male and
Ooh,
female
yeah,
coworkers doing the same job,
that's not
same
good.
title. It was a mess. It was a mess. At public companies, they actually have teams that are constantly evaluating um salaries, and they
Mhm.
are looking for those indicators of tenure, race, gender, etc., to make sure that you don't have scandals like this that happen. So you're a little bit more protected at public companies. But you want to test the market. I think it's also really good to keep the skill of interviewing, because interviewing is a skill.
Yes,
And if you've been
100%.
at the same company, and there's a difference between being at the same company and kind of changing business units, changing roles, changing titles, changing responsibilities, and you're internally interviewing versus like, no, I've been in this same position for the past like 10 plus years, and my resume has not changed. I have not interviewed. You're losing a skill.
Yeah.
Interviewing is a skill. It is a muscle you continuously have to build. And so even understanding like what new questions are being asked, what priorities do other companies have, those things are really important to keep you sharp. So even if it is not, quote unquote for the money, keep yourself sharp in that manner as well.
Yeah. And even, obviously right now we were talking about some of the cons of staying, with a company long term.
Mm-hmm.
There can also be some pros that actually do come with that loyalty.
Sure.
So for example, when it comes to your employer match. So most of the time with an employer match into a retirement account, 403B, 401k, whatever it may be, you have to be there for a certain period of time in order to be completely entitled to the employer match that they've contributed. So
Like the vesting period.
yes.
Yeah.
So normally the vesting schedule is kind of a common one, is to be there for at least 4 years
Mm-hmm.
to be 100% entitled to the entire amount that your employer has contributed. So there could be a benefit of staying there for at least that 4-year period to get the full contribution.
That's how they get you.
It can be how it gets you. That can also be involved in regards to if you have any type of equity within the company, whether
Yeah.
that's RSUs.
That's
Um,
another way they get you.
Exactly, as
Golden
far as
handcuffs.
possibly staying longer to make sure that all your stock options vest. Um, one that's not quite as common anymore, obviously the pension, but if you are working within the government sector,
Hmm.
that could be a benefit.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think too, you have to weigh out, right? Especially what industry you're in. Um, I think, especially if you're in tech like I am, it's very volatile, right? So again, it doesn't matter that you're a star performer, that everybody loves you, that your projects are going well.
Doesn't matter. It's a big company, like
Yeah.
a stable company.
And at this point, because people have said historically, and this kind of is what I always thought about, if you are aligned to what is bringing the business money, right? So like in my world, it's I'm supporting the sales team or I am a seller. So like without product being sold, the company does not exist. So, you're in the main part of the business or you're as close as you can be. You're working on projects that are getting funding, right? Like the AI projects and the cool new technologies and the this and the that, all the innovative stuff. Even then, I was let go from a team where we were literally piloting like this massive multi-million-dollar program, right? It was like an AI an system that we were building. Anyways, got laid off in the middle of that. So like even when you think you're safe, you are no longer safe. And so I think it's good to stay sharp, keep your resume updated, constantly network, like genuinely network, right?
That's a huge one
Yeah.
because
Your network is how you get work.
as I've seen, being with Jess, I think it's one of her superpowers. It's one of the things that she does amazingly and also does it naturally, is that she is consistently networking. And so, therefore, in these scenarios, when she does get laid off, it's not as if she is starting from zero to start reaching out to people to establish some type of connection.
Hmm.
She's already been talking to them. She's already been establishing the connection. She's already been helping other people so that when she actually does need some help or has a favor to ask, or can you refer me for this job internally, it's easy for her and people have no problems doing it.
Right. So go to the events, go to the networking, go to your college alumni group events. Like if you have different certifications, like I got my PMP last year. Now I'm part of a, PMP group in my area that hosts events. Like all of those people work for companies that I might be interested in the future. Like build genuine relationships, follow up, go to coffee, go to lunch, do the things.
Yeah,
Do the things.
because I would say, like, I'm not the best networker by any means, and I could definitely improve. But I also think sometimes, people, when they think of networking, they're thinking of specifically going to a networking event where you're standing around just talking to people.
Right. With
You
your
could,
little name tag.
yeah, you could do it in other ways. Like,
Mhm.
like, for example, if you're someone that's into pickleball now,
Right.
there are ways to network while you're just playing pickleball so it feels more natural, or just find whatever hobbies you're into
Mhm.
or sports. And there can definitely be things in regards to having professional connections while doing that said activity so
Right.
that it feels less like hard networking.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't need to be I'm going to a networking event. It's I'm going to an event to genuinely get to know people and to build relationships.
Yes.
Yeah. I will say I think depending on what industry you're in, there are pros and cons to what we would have historically said, like, yeah, test the market every 2 to 3 years, make sure that you're being paid properly. With all of that said, make sure that you are not leaving your job before having another job. When you
Yeah.
can. When you can. I don't know, I just felt like I needed to call
Yeah.
that out, but like unless you're
Unless
just like rolling in dough and you don't need your job.
or unless it's like unless it's an extremely
Toxic.
toxic environment
Yeah.
where that is weighing on your mental health and it's just not a good situation. But
Mhm.
that's also in the same context of hopefully you have adequate emergency savings set aside so
Right.
that you can make that exit and have that time to find a
Mhm.
new job. But the ideal scenario is that you find another job while you have a job.
Yes, yes. And then too, think about, and we've done episodes on this in the past too, think about the things that are important to you that you really like about your current job, the things that, bring you energy, bring you joy. Maybe it's as simple as I really like working from home because of this phase of life that I'm in. Maybe you start interviewing and they're like, "Yeah, we're in office 3 days a week." And you're like, "Nope, that life is not for me. I'm not there yet." Right? Like you have to start weighing what is and is not important, where you can and will not make sacrifices. And when you put yourself out there and you're interviewing and you're networking and you're learning about what's happening in other companies, it helps you build your list
Hmm.
of non-negotiables, of must-haves, of things where you will be flexible and where you will bend, and then things where you're like, "You know what? No, I'm not gonna do that." Like, as I've
I
been
think that comes with
interviewing
age.
and age, yes. Like, as I've been interviewing, I've met with a couple recruiters, they've proposed some jobs, they're like, "We think you'd be great for this," and I'm like, "Great, tell me more." And a lot of them have said they're in office 5 days a week or they're in office 3 days a week. And again, I'm just not there yet. Like, I'm happy to go into an office a handful of times. I'm happy to go into an office during the onboarding period. I'm always happy to like meet you in an office in a different state, in a different country to do some onboarding, like, but Monday through Friday, the way our life is set up right now, that would really wreak havoc, I
Yeah,
think, on us.
it's also determining what season of life you're in
Yeah.
and what fits that season. And then also, kind of like what you stated, what gives you the best peace of mind?
Mm-hmm.
Because with us having young kids, being able to work from home makes our life significantly easier.
Yes.
And so, that's like you said, that's one of your non negotiables at this point in time. And you can have that as a non negotiable because of what you do and what you bring to the table from your
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also what type of experience do you have behind you that allows you to ask for certain things?
Yes.
Because you also have to be realistic in what you're asking.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, it's a negotiation, you know? So,
That's another big part. I think it's also like between being loyal to a company and job hopping is also a mentality.
mm,
I think too many people think that, oh, I'm so lucky that this company has given me a job
mm,
instead of this company's lucky to have me also because I'm a hard
absolutely.
worker and I know what I bring to the table.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to be you're interviewing them just like they're interviewing you,
Yes.
and it has to be the right fit. Now, there's things to consider too, right? Like, and I've talked about this before. Before I was let go from Cisco, I was actually hired for another internal role, and I was really excited to work for a new leader. Not because I didn't get along great with my other leader, and I had a ton of respect for her and how she operates, and I learned a lot under her. But there's value in learning from other people.
Yes.
And she was like 10 years ex Google, ex Microsoft. She was like a West Coaster. I just was like really hungry to learn from a new leader and to be on a new team and just to learn and grow in different ways and to kind of like expand my skill set. Um, and so thinking about like, where are you going to get mentorship? Where are you going to get sponsorship, right? There's a difference between a mentor and a sponsor. We're going to save that for a different episode. But like thinking about too, not just what you can bring to a role, but what are you going to get out of potentially changing, roles, business units, companies, etc.
What skill sets can you add
Exactly.
to your
Aside from just the monetary. Now, monetary is huge. We know that money is a tool, and the more money you have, the more tools you have at your disposal. Like, yes. But there's a lot more that goes into it. So as you're thinking about, how long you've been in your role, what are you getting out of it? What is the company providing? If you haven't tested the market, it might just be time to just test. We're not telling you to go quit your job
And that's the best time to do it is
when
when
you're
you have a
employed
job.
and you can say no.
Because one, if you haven't done it in a while, you can get some reps under your belt to
Yep.
kind of, get yourself used to doing it again.
Yep.
And as you said before, when you have a job that you're already happy with, you can be very picky and choosy if you were to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what would you say are some like the rules of like smart job hopping if you're going to, do that?
Well, definitely, be employed if you can while you're looking for a new job. Um, I would say it's important to look for companies that are going to give you better, right? So, like, let's
Hmm.
say you're with a really small company and you're like, man, this health insurance is really terrible. Or I used to work for a public company and I got RSUs. Now I work for a private company and I don't get them anymore. I really want to go back to public because of the better benefits package. And I have options to either get stock given to me as, like annual bonuses and or maybe be part of like the employee stock purchase program where you can buy stock at a discount. Like, again, thinking about what you're really looking for. Maybe you're in office right now and you want to go remote. maybe there's on-site childcare and you're like, oh, my baby's about to go to daycare. Like, those are things to think about.
Yeah.
I, I was going to say one more that people sometimes don't think about is if you know that you're going to be going through any kind of fertility treatments, right? If you maybe are like, hey, this is going to be a big burden cost-wise, there are companies that will cover all or part of the cost of IVF, adoption, etc. Maybe that's a perk you're looking into. So I would really analyze like what is important, not just the title and the salary, but like what is the company offering as a total comp package?
Yeah. I would also add that one, you want to have been with your company at least for a couple years before you hop ship, because no other company wants to look that you're changing jobs every year. That's not a
Yeah,
good
it
pattern.
it usually comes up as more of a red flag, especially I follow a lot of recruiters on LinkedIn, and I will say I tend to see younger recruiters not be as phased by people having 1 to 2 years at a company versus more senior or older recruiters seem to still be a little turned off by that, because then you're like, well, why am I putting all this effort in when you're just going to leave in a year?
Yeah. So you want to at least also being there for a year maybe doesn't even give you enough time to really shine at that company
Yeah.
and kind of make you stand out to be remembered.
It took me almost a year when I was at Cisco to figure out who to talk to and who to go to for what. Well, like within my specific program for
Mhm.
the things I was doing, because it was so large, global, highly matrixed. I mean, even that, like figuring out those like internal political dynamics, that can take a year.
And then, like, after that, we've kind of mentioned it previously, but, you know, when you make these moves, you really shouldn't be just doing them to go sideways. They really should
Hmm.
be upward mobility. Now, the one time, like one of the exceptions where maybe it could really make sense to move laterally is that you are now coming underneath a leader that could move your career forward exponentially. And that's someone who's a
Mm-hmm.
sponsor and not just simply,
A
a
mentor.
mentor.
Yeah.
So that could, and, that's one of the exceptions that can make, a difference in regards to doing a lateral move. But
Hmm.
one of the things with that is also knowing your number. Like, in order to make a move, what is the amount that you would need to make that move?
Hmm.
So anywhere from 15 to 20%, it's kind of like what's going to make more sense, because switching jobs necessarily for just a 5% increase doesn't make sense if it's only based upon the
That's not
salary.
even a tank of gas. If you're getting 26 paychecks a year,
Yeah.
like that's not you're not going to feel that. That's not going to be this like, "Oh my gosh, look at this paycheck. It's amazing."
Yeah.
You're not going to feel it.
If you're looking simply at the set income, it has to be a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
And then also, I'd say too, at the end of the day, when you're making these changes to the ideas that you're making them because they're in your best interest, but at the same time, you don't want to burn bridges.
Yeah,
So you have
no.
to make sure that when you are
Keep your
exiting,
relationships.
keep those relationships, because you have no idea how you might circle back around and come in, contact with the same person, whether it's at the same company or potentially a different company.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the whole concept around loyalty is to use it as a strategy, not just to use it because you've gotten a little lazy, right? Where you're like, it's easy. I'm complacent. I don't want to update my resume. I don't want to interview. I mean, applying for jobs is a job,
And I will say
right?
this,
So I get it.
if you are happy where you're at and you're happy in regards to your position and you have no desire to move upward, that's fine. This episode's not for you. Just letting you know, this is not the episode
But
for
it's
you.
things to think about.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, like, some people
There's always
are
room for
just fine.
improvement.
They're like, I make this amount of money.
Yeah.
I I know my job. I've been doing it for, 10 years. I don't have to think about it. I do it. I'm fine. I'm happy with everything.
Mhm.
If that's you, hey, do whatever makes you happy. This episode's not for you. This is for the mover and shakers trying to move up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too, if you're going to job hop, like you said, do it with intention, have a strategy, have a plan behind it. Are you looking for a new title because it's going to help you ultimately get to where you want to be, you know, in the future? Is it going to give you better benefits, better work-life balance, new leaders, new sponsors, new mentors, better stock options? Like whatever that is for you, make sure that you've got some intention behind why you're making the move. Even if it's
Once again, planning.
I just want to test the market. I want to make sure that I'm not being underpaid. I think too, and this is something we've talked about often, is talk to your friends, especially if they're in the same industry, like how much are your friends making? What are their bonuses? What are their sign-on bonuses? How much stock are they getting every quarter? Like I have two handfuls of friends. We know each other's numbers. We talk about it all the time. We are excited about each other's raises, promotions, sign-on bonuses, like, but you don't know if you don't ask. And especially if you're in the same industry, ask, like, have these conversations. The people making the most money are having these conversations in their circles regularly. And for the women listening, have a man. Listen, Brandon
Yes.
already knows I've got a work husband and we don't even work together anymore. We were chatting this morning and I was talking about, all right, what would you do for this, this, and this? What was your last sign on bonus? How would you position this? Because I want to make sure that my market value is comparable to my white man work husband.
Yeah.
Okay?
And in the circle that she's cultivated is not based upon competition.
Right.
None of them are trying
No.
to compete with each other.
Mm-mm.
It's genuinely trying to help each other be the best version that they can be when it comes to, career and their growth in their career.
Yeah.
And like I
We're
said,
just trying to help each other.
her quote unquote work husband, like I appreciate the insight that he has and that he provides to Jess because I'm not in just an industry. I've never worked in that industry.
Mhm.
So I cannot give her any type of advice in that standpoint.
Yeah.
And so it's helpful that he's able to say, hey, as a white man in this industry, this is what I'm getting. And,
Mhm.
I think you should ask for this. It's extremely helpful.
Yeah. And I mean, we were talking, he was like, oh, I never don't ask for a sign on bonus. And here's how I position it. Right. So, and I have other friends, where we're always talking about what was our W-2, what was our stock, what was our bonus. You just need to have those conversations. And the reality is wealthy people have these conversations. They're talking about the latest and greatest deal. They're talking about the better interest rate that they got from this banker versus that banker. They're talking about how their deals are structured. That is how you build wealth. You cannot build wealth in a tunnel isolated when you don't have the information, right? Because then you don't have anything to compare it to. So have the conversations, figure it out in your circle. Find out what the last thing was that, one of your besties negotiated. When I talk to my friends about negotiating severance, they were like, oh my gosh, we had no idea you could do that. Let me tell you, in this industry, I'm never not doing it again. Right? So you have to talk, you have to have the conversations.
And I've literally, started to cultivate a list of the things that, I've learned from Jess for her going through it firsthand experience and been able to help clients with that as far as negotiating stuff.
Yep, exactly. And didn't one of your clients just negotiate like a $30,000
Yeah.
bump just by asking?
I had a
Just by
client
asking.
literally probably about 2 weeks ago now, had gotten a job offer and she sent over the initial offer and we talked about it. And I was like, maybe you should go ahead and actually, based upon, doing some research, you should ask for this. It was a bump. It was like a $30,000 bump in her base pay. I think they doubled
They
her.
didn't even blink.
Yeah, they doubled her equity because we asked for more equity.
You have to ask.
Yeah.
Closed mouths don't get fed. I mean, I could say that literally on every episode. Closed mouths don't get fed. Do not accept the first
Because the
offer.
reality in these scenarios, I think people have a fear that when they first get the offer, that if they ask for more, they're going to be like, we're just completely rescind the offer.
No.
We don't want you
mind.
anymore.
You asked for too much.
I've never in my life heard of that happening.
No.
Simply all they do is if they're not going to give you more, they're not able to, they're just going to say, this is the best we can do.
Right.
Take it or
Best
leave it.
and final. And then guess what? I would still ask for something else. I would ask for an education stipend. I would ask for an extra week of PTO. I would ask for my phone bill to be covered, my internet to be covered. I would ask for, if you're in a traveling role, I would say I want first class tickets for any flight over 4 hours. Like literally, y'all, if you need help in negotiating something, let me know. We will find something for you to negotiate.
You've had companies where like the base pay wasn't quite where you want to be, but you got several almost $100,000 worth of RSUs off of that. Like I said, you negotiated the her last job.
Education
stipend to get her PMP.
My PMP. Yeah, like listen, ask for something. Just ask.
Yeah, there's other ways to better the situation that aren't simply, dollars in your income.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, this episode is more of a discussion on like, does it pay to hop, which normally it does. There's also perks in staying, right? Again, I think it does depend on your season of life. But if you're going to take anything away from today, it's make sure that you know what the industry currently is paying for your role, for your title, for your years of experience, for your education level. Even if you're doing a basic Glassdoor search, even if you're asking Claude or asking ChatGPT, find out if what you are being paid is in market range. And if it is not, start a plan for negotiating with your current employer on how you can get your salary up so that it's at least in market range, or spruce up that resume and start sending it to people and see if you can get interviews and offers that you could then bring back to your company. Or if you're realizing, man, I'm actually really underpaid, maybe it is time to look for something new. So know your worth always. That's what this episode is really about.
Yes, yes.
And if you have any questions for us at all, reach out. I'm always happy to talk about things you can negotiate. So send us an email, slide in our DMs. We can keep this conversation going. But hopefully this was helpful, food for thought, and we will talk to you next week.
Sugar Daddy Podcast, yo. Learn how to make them pockets